Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. We are very sorry. We are back. Just have a little bit of internet problem, but we are back now. So today we will be focusing on uh, plastic pollution and the blue planet. And our guest today is our very good friend. Her name is Abimbola Abikoye. She's going to be joining us today on our second session for Climate Wednesday. And this month, we're actually focusing on big plastic pollution. And that is why we are having a, just so that we don't waste much of our time. Let me quickly do a little bit introduction of Abimbola. Abimbola Abikoye is a program director for International Climate Change Development Initiative Africa, and also she's the president of Global Catholic Climate Movement Nigeria, and the project developer for Rave Network, where she created the first virtual cohort program on climate change. Abimbola is the author of the Ecologue, a quick guide to the basic of climate change, and is actively involved in climate change advocacy, writing, project development, and community-based research. Abikoye is a lover of arts, classical music, academics, and diplomacy. She believes in connecting people and building communities using everyday actions to create extraordinary change. So we are very happy today to have Abimbola in our midst, and she's going to be talking a little bit about this conversation we are going to be having today. So I want you all drop your comments, drop your messages. Let us hear from you what you want to hear from Abimbola today. And if you know that you also have a recommendation you want to share with us, kindly do that as well. We would love to hear from you. So let us go straight to the point. Even though I've introduced Abimbola to us, I think we can still hear from her who she is, what she does, and what actually motivates her to be on this line of development, issue of climate advocacy and development in general. So, Abimbola, welcome to today's session of Climate Wednesday.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, good afternoon, everybody.
Okay.
Mhm. I don't have much to say. You said everything. So my name is Abikoye Abimbola, and I don't know. I just fell in love with climate change advocacy, and so I'm using research and project development to help build high capacity building projects for communities. And I'm the program director of International Climate Change Development Initiative Africa, where I work with a diverse team of intellectuals and field-spirited humans, and they've made the journey easier. And I've met a lot of people through the organizations and through other engagements. And I think that's about me. Thank you.
Abimbola, I think your network is a little bit, I can't get to hear what you
Okay, can
said,
you hear
but
me
I
now?
just believe that you've been able to explain who you are to our audience. And let us quickly go to our conversation today. And please try to check whether your network is actually very, very strong so that we can have a good conversation today. So let me start. Last week, we actually talked about the EPR, and our guest was able to explain to us the role of international sectors, the role of government, and the role of civil society, which I call everybody as stakeholders in this race. So I want to know today, as we're talking about the blue planet and the plastic pollution itself, what does what is the blue planet and how does it sustain human life?
Okay, so I hope you can hear me because I don't know, my network is pretty good here. So the blue planet is we consider the blue planet, or the blue planet is called the ocean. So as we all know, 70% of the world is the ocean, and the last 30% are the continental landmass. And there is no difference between the ocean and the landmass in the sense that humans occupy the land, and billions of species occupy the ocean. And the ocean is divided into six. I think the Arctic, the Atlantic Ocean, the Pacific Ocean, the Indian Ocean, the Southern Ocean. There are subdivisions like that. And so the ocean is filled with billions and billions of species. And because of the uniqueness of the ocean, it has, and the depth and resources found therein, it is referred to as um, the blue planet because it has a lot of different colorful and different sort of species underneath. And I would like to say that all living things on Earth are sustained by three things: air, water, and food. And the way we have all of these things sustain our existence, that's the way the lives below water or the lives um, in the ocean also have all of these things as well. So I'd like to say that the ocean, I'd like to divide it into, I'd like to divide it into parts, which the ocean is divided into three categories. We have the plankton, we have the plankton, and we have the tortoise. So the plankton are a wide varieties or collections of organisms that that are in the ocean, and they serve as food to the other different categories of species, such as the neptune and the peppers. And so the plankton is divided into two different categories, and these two different categories are phytoplankton and zooplankton. Phytoplankton are found in aquatic areas which are called the upper layer of the ocean water, and they are found in that space because of the sunlight. They feed on sunlight to get photosynthesis, and in turn, the zooplankton feed on them, and the zooplanktons are animals and fishes and other mammals as well. Then it goes on like that. So the ocean is actually diverse in the sense that everything is interconnected, and the flow of the seabed mammals that fly through the sky, that feed in the ocean, and the other species down in the ocean, such as dolphins, which feed on amphibians, and the likes. And we as humans also go into the ocean to fish to get protein and different fishing activities that are used for commercial and industrial purposes. So the ocean is actually a very wide and diverse planet, and they are divided into different places because different countries or continents around the world are surrounded by water. For instance, like the coastal sea are close to coastal communities, or coastal states, as the case may be. And we know that Africa is surrounded by water as well and leads to the Atlantic Ocean. Where Nigeria is situated in the African map, you will get to see that it's closely located to the Gulf of Guinea and the likes. So what I'm trying to say is, can you hear me? I hope you can still hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you, but people are not. They are putting comment that they cannot hear you very well. I think your voice is, you are not close to your. We need you to use your mic so that we can. I'm not hearing you too very well.
Okay, so can you hear me now?
We can hear you very
Is it
well
better?
now. Thank you. Yeah, it's very much better now.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so I'll just try to give a brief of what I've said so far. So I
Yeah, and
said
so that
that
we can move to
the
the next
Earth.
question. Let us make it snappy.
Okay, so the blue ocean is surrounded by billions and billions of species that feed on each other to sustain their existence. And as well, we humans depend on these species to get um, the required proteins that we need for ourselves as well. So their existence or their continued existence sustain our own lives because we all depend on the same thing. We all depend on water, we all depend on air, and we all depend on food. Food that is found on land, the same way it's found on land, the same way we grow food, the same way the fruits are grown, plants are grown beneath the sea, and the species beneath the sea are able to eat many of these things, which are the phytoplanktonic, like I said before. And
how does the ocean influence human, or how does it affect human, if I got it right? It serves human different purposes, because humans, from time immemorial, it helps to absorb carbon. The ocean helps to absorb carbon where photosynthesis occur, and it also gives oxygen. It is said by the National Geography that in every one of 5 breaths that we take, the oxygen is gotten from phytoplatonic, and phytoplatonic are like mini tiny species that are found on the water. So the connection between human and the ocean are very linked to each other. And without the phytoplatonic, which is the foundation of the ocean food chain, we cannot get species. And each of these species beneath the ocean prey on each other for food. And if one of the species go into extinction rather, then there'll be a problem in the interconnectedness of the species in the ocean. So the ocean serves numerous purposes to the human person, and within coastal seas, we find coral reefs beneath the seas. We find mangroves. We find what's it called, seagrasses, and seagrasses helps absorb a lot of carbon, and it absorbs over 35% of the carbon, almost equivalent to the rainforest, to the amount of carbon absorbed by the rainforest. And also the mangrove serve as carbon. They absorb a lot of carbon as well. And the roots of the mangrove found deep down into the ocean serve as nurseries for newborn fishes before they outgrow their sizes and then move and migrate to other places. So the birds get fishes in the ocean, the dolphins get fishes in the ocean, and we as well get fishes in the ocean. So every single one of these things are like preying on each other, and it is the workings of the planet that enables us to do whatever we want to do. And it has different forms of getting what's it called, oxygen through photosynthesis, like I said before, and through chemosynthesis, which are gotten from when decomposers break chemicals into bits, and decomposers are worms and bacteria found within the ocean, which other organisms prey on, other species prey on. So these are the workings of how the ocean, the interconnectedness of the ocean and the species found within are connected to our own lives. Because without these workings, I don't think we can get the amount of proteins that we get. So that is how the two are being they work hand in hand. Sorry, they work hand in hand. So I think that's just it.
Yeah, thank you very much for giving us that explanation, how they're actually interconnected with human, and how this is going to be a way of us, sharing more of our knowledge around plastic pollution and how the blue planet is actually happening. So that takes me to the next question I will be asking you. I just want to know, plastic pollution has become a growing threat, attracting increasing attention as a large-scale pollutant. How does it affect Nigeria as a nation?
Okay, so plastic pollution since the 1950s has become a problem, particularly tracking the last decade rather, from 1950 to 2030. We see that there is a huge margin. And the fact is, irrespective of us having to use the ocean wealth as a place where we go to for resources, our go-to place for resources in terms of fishing, in terms of other different activities, you would see that the tons and tons of waste that are emitted are actually large. So now, if you look at Nigeria as a country, you will see that Nigeria is a coastal state, or rather a coastal country that has like 9 different coastal states around it. Looking at the map of Nigeria, you will see that, like I said before, it's closer to the Atlantic Ocean, the Southern Atlantic Ocean. And Lagos is just at the tip of it. So if you want to go through Lagos, probably Badagry might lead you to the Atlantic Ocean if you're flying through the road or transiting through the road. So the thing is, Nigeria has a large population of over 200 million people. And the issue is, as as the population grows, the demand for food, the demand for production actually grows as large as well. And so with all of these things put together, population size, high demand for product and for food and the likes, we get to use different products in our packaging, the packaging of the goods that are being produced, the way we use our plastics and dump them anywhere that we want, because we don't have a culture of disposing waste properly. Many of these things find their way on the roads, and many of them find their way outside. So you see that the 2017 report by Ocean Atlas states that Nigeria is one of the 11th countries that actually dumps plastic in the ocean, in the Atlantic Ocean. And that is a huge problem. Why? Because if we dump plastic in the ocean, it just sort of destroys the ecosystem beneath the floor. And let's not forget that beneath the floor, we get our fresh water for drinking. So that's aside. Nigeria is actually in a strategic position because it doesn't yet have the capacity to get off waste from the environment. Although we cannot downplay the agencies that are working tirelessly to make sure that they eliminate and reduce plastic waste. But the truth may remain is many of these things are found particularly in our coastal areas. So now the coastal communities are like bridges from the ocean to our land. So now if these people use plastics, they find their way into the ocean, and it's quite difficult because how many people would want to go into the ocean? Not many people would want to do that. But then we have fishermen that fish and they have issues because many of our resources are being destroyed because of this plastic pollution. So it affects Nigeria in a way because Nigeria produces large amounts of plastic. It uses large amounts of plastics due to population size. And there are no way of circulating all these things to make sure that these excesses are being curbed. Although we have recycling companies that tend to recycle plastics and the likes, but recycling alone is not sufficient to get rid of all of these plastics, because we all know that plastic do not degrade. Plastics they live 100 lives. Even those ones produced in 1950, you see reports that says they still exist and they're found in the Pacific Ocean. So Nigeria is Nigeria is a coastal country that has different different aspect or different sector that has to do with resources, producing resources and mining resources as well. So it is actually a very big issue because Nigeria produces a lot and lot of tons of it, particularly Lagos, which is one of the most populated cities and commercial hub of Nigeria. So it's actually a problem because we produce tons and tons of plastic, like I said before, and we don't have that culture of disposing plastic properly, although there is more awareness and we're beginning to see the impact it's causing, particularly because many informal settlements are situated close to the coast, are situated close to coastal communities. So it's much of a problem for us because it clogs our drainages. Aside that, it also chokes marine species. There was a research I did in 2019 for like a 6-month research I did in one of the coastal communities in Lagos State. Watching these, in being in the community, I could see that particularly sea turtles choked to death because of plastics. Turning them over, you see that they've all. So we just need to have other alternatives to curbing plastic pollution.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think the conversation on plastic pollution has been a great one because a lot of industries, a lot of companies, both private, non-governmental organizations, even the government, they're actually making sure that they talk more about this issue and to see how we can all find a sustainable solution to our plastic. And not only PET bottles alone, we have the different kind of plastic that goes into the ocean, and that is why it's very important for Nigeria as a country to start looking at how we can make our environment more sustainable as well. So this takes me to the second to the last question for today. What challenges lies in eliminating plastic pollution or curbing its excessive use in Nigeria? What are the challenges that lies in eliminating the plastic pollution?
Well, to say the truth, I would rather want to speak on curbing plastic pollution because from time immemorial, since the invention of plastics or the production of plastics, we know that plastics have made our lives easier. Plastics are used for different purposes, such as packaging, for shipments. Plastics are used to preserve food, and plastics are used for different purposes that are actually have proved to be the advantages have proved to be very good for us as humans. But then it has it has also caused a whole lot of damages to the environment. So I would like to say that many of the challenges that we face is, as a coastal country, we have issues of marine species and being choked to death on our shorelines, on our shore, and we also have issues of fishermen not getting sufficient fishes to fish unlike they used to do. Speaking on my field experiences with some of them that I've had the opportunity to interview, and many of them simply most times, well, they don't get enough fishes from the ocean. So many of the challenges are many of these plastics not going to are not going to leave the surface of the earth in the next 100 years because they are very tough, because they are made of fossils and natural gases. I would say that and also we need to be one of the other challenges are industries which are self-regulating, because we do not know, they produce large amount of plastics and they are not being properly regulated to know if these plastics can be recycled or not recycled and the likes. And also the blame on producers saying that it's the fault of the consumers because the consumers use things and dump them and the likes. So these are many of the challenges. Aside that, we have seen that over 114 different species have plastics in their organs, according to National Geography and the like. So many of all these challenges and the behavior as well, because many local residents, particularly those on the coastal, those who live in the coastal communities, they do not know in depth the intricacies of having to use plastics or dump them, or having to throw plastics or dump them into the ocean, or having to use plastics to fuel or do different activities they need to use plastic for, which are detrimental to the ecosystem. So many of these challenges has to do with not being aware, not being knowledgeable, using plastics and dumping them, not knowing what to do with the plastics, which plastic actually has lots and lots of opportunities in it, and also behavior towards how we use this product and how we buy this product. So these are many of the challenges that we face as Nigerians who use large amounts of plastics. So these are some of all the many and more challenges that we face and we have as a country. And so the production and the use of all these plastics are being pushed out or are being flown to the sea. And directly, if it goes like that, it goes straight to the Atlantic Ocean and it keeps traveling and traveling and traveling and destroys the whole ecosystem. I can't hear you again, Olumide.
Can you hear me now? Yeah. It is very, very
Yes, I can hear
important
you
for
now.
us. Yeah, thank you for your comment. And I also think that it's also very important for us to start looking at how we can talk about the challenges as well, because if we don't know the challenges, we actually do not know the kind of solution we can provide for those problems. And it's very, very important for us as a citizen to also look at ourselves as a solution to the plastic pollution problem. So that one is taking me now to what solutions are available to safeguarding all lives concerned, most especially the ones that are very close to the ocean, the ones that are suffering from this pollution, whether is kind of pollution that we're talking about, as talking about the plastic, and we know that these kind of people are the ones that are very, very prone to this area. What are the solutions that are available to safeguarding them and making them to see themselves in a way whereby they'll be happy to say something, they've gained something from the, whether the contributing companies or the government?
Okay, so I think that each and every single one of us have a huge part to play in curbing the excesses of plastic pollution. Because truth be told, to get to a point where the population of the world will equal the world plastic population, which is not supposed to be so. And I think that from the producer angle, it's also equally their responsibilities as it is our responsibilities. So when it is not sufficient enough to just put a fine to, okay, if you produce plastics, this is your fine to help eliminate it. It is not sufficient enough, which is not a solid plan, because it's just like an alternative, or like an indirect go ahead to produce as much plastic as you want to. So the solutions that we have is we should it is an equal responsibility. The producers should know that many of the product that they should be using or they should be producing should be things that can be recycled. And the other is we cannot totally eliminate plastic production, because truth be told, many of the things that we do, our hospitals make use of plastics and it makes the place safe and the likes. So the other solutions that are there is to put, if we are to put a law in place, it should be heavily backed by enforcement, because there is no a law is null and void if there is no enforcement. It's as good as there is no law, because it's null and void. So if there to be a law, of which I don't think we have now, it should be heavily backed by enforcement that are very stringent. We as consumers are also also have equal responsibility, because we use these plastics, and many of the plastics that are being produced are used once and they are discarded. So it's also a great effort, because many organizations in Nigeria actually recycle plastics. So it's one way to go, although it's not sufficient enough. And I think that we can also dive into reducing the amount of plastics that we use, because we produce every minute, we produce tons and tons, millions and millions of plastic worldwide. And also we have lots of upcycling companies that use plastics and all these waste material products to build fanciful household decorations and the like. So we can also tap into that space, because every challenge comes with an equal opportunity. It's just to tap into the equal opportunity. And now it's a collective effort. So there's no blame shifting. Everybody has to come together. So at the government level, I think, like I said before, laws and enforcement are equally very important. Policies, informed policies that fit into the peculiarity of our situation are also very important, because there's one thing to have a policy, it's another thing for it to fit into our current challenges. So I think that is all equally very, very important at the government level, and the government should be able to hold producers responsible. There should be a regulation. The way that we know there are many international conventions that govern plastic waste, like the Basel Convention and the Intermarital Organization, which just rectified the Annex 6 of the MAPOL, and lots of that. So there's a long way to go in fixing all of these things put together. And because the ocean wealth, Nigeria and all the countries that are directly close to the ocean is actually a place that it has lots and lots of resources that can serve our generations and generations to come. And probably that is why it is called the common heritage of mankind. So it has to be safeguarded. For instance, for mining, we have the International Seabed Authority. For shipment, we have the Intermaritime Organization and International Seabed Authority, governing some of all the strategic resources and the mining of all of these activities. So if we can have something like an agreement which all nations can come together to be a part of and is binding on them, I think that it's one way forward at the international level, and it should be adopted, because I know that for us to have some of all these international conventions, we have it at national level, we have it at regional level. So if Nigeria can also adopt this and bring all these producers together to sit at the table and have them choose alternative methods, I think that's also another solution that we can tap into. So there are lots and lots of solutions aside bringing innovation, aside using technological advancements, aside using data, aside using all these new skills and soft skills to make sure that we tackle our problem through tailored design thinking methods. We can actually achieve that if all of us take it as a responsibility that we are equally as responsible as the producer and the consumer. So I think that is a step forward to getting all about
Yeah,
this.
thank you very, very much. And I think I'm very sure that most of our listeners can hear and listen to your comments. And even if you have any government officials, private sectors, everybody across the world listening to this our live session on Climate Wednesday, that we're focusing much on beat plastic pollution. I'm very sure that they'll be able to take one or two things to actually learn from what you've just shared with us. Now, I just wanted to use this opportunity to say to our online friends, you can drop your comments, you can drop your questions, and any other thing you want to ask our guests on this platform today, so that we'll be able to, have more conversation. Our guests will also give us some clarification on some other conversation that is in line with what we are talking about. Uh, Let me remind us again, our topic for today is plastic pollution and the blue planet. And we are looking at what are the roles of every stakeholders as well. And we are looking at the growing threats that this has been causing to the ocean. And we're also looking at the larger space, making Nigeria as a case study to see how we can safeguard the people that are actually affected from this impact. So, to close and to round up our conversation today, I want you to actually give us like a recommendation that can help us to reduce plastic waste. When I say recommendation, the recommendation should be focusing on what do you think all stakeholders should be doing. First and foremost, we're talking about the private sector. We are talking about the enterprise. We're talking about the government. What are the recommendations you think we should be putting in place to make sure that every day our plastic is being taken away from the ocean and we are being able to be sustainable to make sure that, like you also rightly said in one of your comments, that we cannot phase out plastic, and that's why we say we are beating plastic pollution. So, for us to beat plastic pollution, what are the recommendations everybody, both citizens, government, private sectors, young people, can do to make sure that we safeguard humans' life? Thank you.
Okay, so
The floor
for
is
private sector, I think that because we know that the large. Can you hear me? Okay, so looking at it in the aspect of my recommendation, I think that many recycling companies are actually doing a lot to help curb plastic waste pollution in Nigeria. And because many of these activities that has to do with recycling are heavily backed by funding, I think what private sector can do is to fund social enterprises such as that, because they produce this thing, it's their products. We use them, we discard them, and the like. So I think that investing in recycling companies would help, because many recycling companies actually face issues of logistics, transportations, and the like. For those, many of them, not all. So I think that private sector can help and think not just profit, but think also social and environmental protection, and putting all these implementations in their strategic planning in producing some of all these plastics. That's for private sector, and they can still do much more in helping to curb these excesses by using other alternative materials that can serve as much as these products, I mean, these plastics that they use in producing their products. So that is what private sector can do. And I've said, like I said earlier, the government also have a lot to do in putting sanctions, putting laws, putting enforcement in place to help regulate the activities of producers and also the activities of consumers. And we need to put waste management mechanisms in place because we have them, and I would not want to undermine the efforts of waste management agencies from federal to local level, but there is still a long way for us to go because we see a whole lot, particularly in coastal communities that have large populations. You see lots and lots of plastics all around them with no alternative. And many of them don't get, they wish to have waste management agencies come to their place, but they can't get that because of how the environment is based, and the trucks from waste management agencies are not built to ply through those roads. So there's actually a large margin which we need to curb. So I don't know, waste management agencies have to look into that to make sure that they get to every hook and corner of the communities, particularly coastal communities, to help us preserve our ecosystem and make the biodiversity in our coastal waters flourish. And also, I think that education and advocacy can never be overemphasized because I, for one, believe in empowering the human mind. Because it's not enough to have projects, it's not enough to have waste management companies, it's not enough to have private sector funding, social enterprises, and the likes. It has to do with the human mind because change cannot happen if the human mind is not influenced. So we need to look at ways of influencing human mind, particularly the local residents who are, I like to call them protectors and intermediaries between the coastal the species and the people on the land, because they are like the ones at the forefront of the coastal area. So it is them that can help us there, and they are indigenous of those places. So empowering the minds of the local communities or coastal local communities is very essential because everything that we do depends on their capacity, their thinking capacity. So awareness and education cannot be overemphasized. We need to look forward to, or we need to look towards having proper advocacy, proper educations that are well tailored and that can suit into their own context, and not just bringing solutions from other communities, because each and every coastal communities have problems that are they might have issues of waste, and it might not just be about the waste. So knowing their issues and identifying them will help inform the kind of solutions that we can bring to them, and not bringing other sin and imposing it on them. And also, they have to be active participants in anything that we do as regards what they do in terms of the project formulation, in terms of the capacity building project. They just have to be involved because their involvement will actually speed up the actualizations of our results, or the results that we so much seek for. So these and many more are not limited to many of these recommendations that I have just said. So the people, the government, the producers, we all have shared responsibilities because we produce, and it's our product. So we just have to find a way to eliminate that. So those are my recommendations.
Yeah, thank you very much, Abimbola. And I think your recommendation concerning education, concerning advocacy, is something that is very, very important because most of our communities, our local communities, our people actually need to see that taking responsibility is part of the solution to how we need to build beat plastic pollution. I want to say thank you very much for your contribution today. I want to say again that you've been able to explain and give us some very valid recommendations that I think we'll be looking forward to see how many of our guests online, on our the people that are connecting to us online, will be able to make use of this as a community engagement for them as well. And talking to the to the government as well, they are looking for more infrastructure, more policy-driven solution because we can't do without this in this kind of space. And across Africa, a lot of people are talking about how they can face out plastic pollution. But the bottom line is, how can we make sure that they are sustainable? Because we still have a lot of communities that are suffering from this issue. So I will just seek for your, just like in one sentence or two sentences, what is going to be your passing part to leave us with something that is very, very, let me call it a powerful word from you to close this session for today.
Okay, so I'd like to say that in our struggle to have a free plastic pollution world, the responsibility is not just for one person, it's for all of us. And if our world sink, we sink with it, regardless of if we are the producers or the consumers. So as forerunners, as climate actors, as community engagement officers or leads, or whatever it is that you are, that you identify with, use that skill to help fight for a plastic-free world, because your children might inherit a plastic-filled world if you don't act now.
Thank you very much. For the sake of our children, for the sake of our family, our future plan, future family, we need to start doing the right thing now, because our ocean is really, really suffering from this plastic pollution. And you can see a lot of people are dying. Our source of income, source of feeding is fading away. And that is why we need to secure the future now. We need to secure ourselves now, so that our children in future will be able to have that better position and better space for them to actually live on Earth. So thank you very much for joining us today on our edition, this Big Plastic Pollution tweet series and the series today. We want to say a big thank you to you, and we are looking forward for more conversation like this, and to also to our audience watching us from everywhere across, and those that are going to be watching later on. We want to say a big thank you to you. We still accepting question, and our speaker will be doing justice to that. When we see them in our comments, we will respond to them in some of our parting shot pictures we're going to be sharing at the end of this month, that we're going to be collecting some recommendations, and we're going to be sharing those recommendations with you all. So thank you very much, and we look forward for more partnership to do more, and watch out for our series next month. By next week, you'll be seeing what we are going to be talking about for next month, and we're going to be focusing on another world issues that is related to environment, and this is something that we want to continue to drive and have the conversation going. Thank you very much, and have a very good evening, morning, afternoon, everywhere over the world. Thank you.
Bye.